I'm Ron Donaire, CEO of Intuizi, and I have with me today KJ Gupte, Senior Data Scientist for Tradeshift, a cloud-based supply chain company operating in 50 plus territories. KJ has had stints at PwC, Wells Fargo, Wachovia, and Aetna. Educated by way of the University of Mumbai and Harvard Business Analytics, KJ, welcome to the Data Deep Dive.
Thank you so much, Ron. I'm really excited to be talking with you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on this year?
Thank you for the introductions. I'm a senior data scientist at Tradeshift. There are a lot of things. There are a lot of data projects that are front and center for us this year. But the biggest project that I would definitely want to talk about and I'm excited about is customer insights, right? Like I think what we are doing lately, mostly for our customers is, and of course for ourselves as well, is trying to deepen the engagement of our customers. One, by providing more data insights that they can use for themselves, and then also taking care that we use their we use those insights to better their journey with Tradeshift, right? With the platform. Mm-hmm. So we are a B2B platform, so it is mostly all about the customer all the time. And in the past, we have kind of come up with solutions when it came to like bad data cleanliness, data credibility, and I think we have approached all those problems with a very long-term solution, and looks like that is working. And now we are at a place where we have some credibility with our data, and now we want our customers to help us, one, improve their journey, and for us to understand what they want so that we can build a better product and a better experience for them. It has to do with a lot of like, to go into a little bit of technicality of things. Gross merchandise value from the industry that I come from. Gross merchandise value is like the biggest metric, the North Star. Mm-hmm. The metric that kind of helps, and it is basically a metric that all our competitors are using as well, right? It is a metric that helps us track the journey of our customers and see where they are at. And it also helps us to identify pitfalls and blind spots that probably we can help improve based on what the story, the data is telling us, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question or I'm very vague about it.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, understanding kind of like these generalized processes are really, really important. Our viewership is really interested in that. Like the idea that like data science is it can be demystified. Like for us, like a lot of business users think data science is like half black magic and half like mastery of Google Sheets, right? Like it's just like this kind of like this nebulous thing. But for business users, like how would you best describe what data science is? Just like let's start there.
Yeah, so absolutely. I come from, I have a diverse background, but right now the problems that I'm solving are more like startup world problems where, like they are sitting into the weeds of the data, right? It is before data becomes big data, you have data to start with. You have like the lay of the land, the foundational structure of data. So I think the initial pitfalls are always around one, lack of data, right? When you start with an MVP, you want to build a good product, you want engagement, but unfortunately you are so focused on building your MVP, go to market strategy, everything, that you just completely forget about how do you capture it. Like you, of course, there is value creation, value capture. So I think while my audiences are interested in hearing about journeys, data journeys, it is very essential for me to highlight that think about your data at MVP. So when you are at MVP, think about like what is your runway, and at the end of that, what is it that you want to track? Because that is what you want to build in the foundations, right?
Yeah.
what happens is, what I have seen in a lot of projects that have failed in the past, even my projects, right? We built an infrastructure, but then the metric that we were looking for needed such a deep dive that
Yeah.
the foundation did not have the container for it, right? And then it is too late in the game, because I mean, you have a product, but you did not build a container for it. Of course, all these things have solutions. So in the past, the way we have solved problems is, one, go away from, don't think of your data as big data. Think about your data as a place where, as a source for insights. You know what happens when you put the labels like big data and stuff is, you suddenly make data a humongous giant when it is not. When your product is just kind of building, right? It is always good to think simplistically and try to build things into the foundation. So what I have learned in my journey is, work with the data that you have, clean it, build credibility into the amount of data that you can work with. Credibility goes a long way. What I've seen in my past with enterprise customers and with C-suite, everybody, right? You put together a good metric, but I mean, for what if that metric is not credible? Like, right, like the metric needs to make decisions. It is not something that you just look at every Monday morning and go back to work. It is something that needs to do something for you, and to do that, you need to work with what you have, and you build in insights through it, right? Instead of thinking about data as this ocean and all those things, think about what is it that it can do for you. So most of my time has gone into first understanding the lay of the land, which is mostly working with business users. First understanding what is it that they are looking for in their data, right? And many times business users don't know what they're looking for. So it is very important to hone in on what is their North Star goal. What is it? Okay, if they're looking to build engagement, or are they looking to increase spend, or are they looking to build a new product in a region that is very focused on a very specific engagement. There are many problems that business users come up with. So like, the first part is work with your business users. The second part is to understand the engineering lay of the land, right? So you have a business problem, you know your product, you understand what data is coming, flowing through your product. Then you go into engineering and understand that, okay, how can you build a data structure, or an infrastructure out of it? Many times what happens is, startups just plug in a data tool beneath their platform, and they think that the tool will do everything. That is not how it works, because the tools don't really, it is like trying to fit a, whatever that phrase is, right? Fit a golf ball into a square hole. It is like that, right? My approach to data, and rather the way I have learned approaching data, is to solve every problem by isolating it. So instead of bringing in like one quick fix to all the KPIs possible, think about one very impactful KPI and see if that impactful KPI can be your North Star goal based on the data you have. It is not enough to just identify and define a KPI, right? Is your data enough to give you the direction that KPI needs to follow? So those are very, very small siloed issues that need to be fixed at foundational level to build credibility. Once you build credibility, once you say there is just one KPI, gross merchandise value, and you have it's new to you, you don't know what to do with it, but as you start building data, gathering data to see how that KPI is functioning, how it is trending, what information it is giving you, that is what builds in credibility. Is your model working? Sometimes what happens is, a model works for like 4 months and falls apart because there is a nuance that nobody thought about. So it takes a lot of time for a KPI to build credibility. I remember there was there was one very difficult project that, I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I mean, I don't know how much time I have, but
we can go. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I remember there was this very important metric that I was working on, and I built a model for it. Everything was fine based on everything, all the use cases that we gathered from the business users, all the lay of the land that we did for engineering, right? But the model fell apart in 4 months because of a nuance that nobody saw coming, right?
Yeah.
And once it fell apart, but those things are what. It is the learning process, right? After it fell apart, we suddenly realized that okay, we have a new scenario that we didn't think about. Now we need to, redo the model with this new scenario, but it is not as simple as that, because we made decisions based on that. We had stakeholders, right? So these are just the problems that you could face, and you need to be flexible and agile enough to keep learning from these. I think these are mostly the biggest data problems that I've seen as a data scientist.
I mean, that's super helpful. I mean, it's really interesting to kind of understand, because much like life, data science kind of follows that, where you have to break down giant problems into little small bite-sized pieces that you can tackle, because it doesn't seem as quite as overwhelming. It's not a data ocean. Try to reduce it to the data lake, and maybe just like just the shore, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean that makes a lot of sense. So thank you for sharing that. So data is the fuel that drives all the modeling, right? Like all the models. How do you ensure that you have good data, and then how do you test it? You use this example of how you thought you had the right metrics, and then in 4 months it fell apart. So how is it that you ensure that you have good data, and how do you test it?
So thanks, very valid questions, right? The first thing to ensure that the data is good data is to assume that it is not good data. So it is like, it is very counterintuitive, but many times the data that you have access to, that is at your disposal, you cannot assume it is clean data. You cannot assume that, you cannot take the data at face value. So a lot of time as a data scientist goes in studying the data, researching, and seeing what benchmarks are, seeing what the trends are showing versus what the benchmarks are, which means you need to be like, inside the box, then outside the box. You need to be a little bit of both, because many times, especially if you are the foundational building block of data science in your field, right? You are the one to bring in, or you are the educator. You are the professor. You are the one to teach people what data is, right? And for that, a lot of research goes on to looking at competitive markets, looking at what is there, what are their numbers, and what is it that is aligning with the data that you have versus, like all those things. So a lot of due diligence, then studying the lay of the land, which means go into your data structures, understand the nuances, the intricacies, understand the flaws in your product. Like that is the biggest challenge. Every once you reach the MVP, right, that is when you start looking at, okay, we have an MVP, but there are flaws, we need to work with flaws. Those flaws are feeding into the data. They are feeding into the data right away, right? So understand what the flaws are, and try to document, like heavy documentation on everything that you're doing, and then start working on, okay, these are the flaws, these are the benchmarks, and then working with business on, okay, how can we take it further? This is what we have, this is what we need to work with, and this is the solution. And the solution just does not come, right? It is a very rigorous approach to test, learn, iterate, test, learn, iterate. And like I said, one of my models fell apart after 4 months. Then there was a new model that worked for a year, then another model worked for 2 years. That's how, like, the first 4 years in your data journey with your new foundational layers, the first 4 years go in building credibility of the data. And that is how you and it is constant iterative approach,
So
right? I'm still working on my models.
Constant iteration. Don't assume that that your first shot's gonna be correct forever, and then just keep looking back at that data. I mean, that's really interesting. So we talked a little bit about big data, right? Like these terms, big data. But as people deal with this kind of growth of data, eventually it does become this big unstructured data mess. It's often hard to wrangle. It's hard to get into a spot where you can identify the good data from the bad data and start running all of the algorithms that you want, whether it be like k-means, random forests, regressions, all the fun stuff that are in the quiver of a data scientist. What do you use, and how do you handle unstructured data to get it into a workable state? What do you use personally?
Personally, I use tools like, of course, for unstructured data, first you need some help in,
Right.
and that is where, like, for me, engineering is where I seek help from. And I kind of work with engineering to identify the data entities that I need. So
Mm-hmm.
it is like, a very focused knowledge on, no matter whether structured or unstructured,
Yep.
you really just need 2 or 3 data entities, in the big
Yeah.
ocean, right? You
Yeah.
just need 2 or 3, and you need to follow that track
Mm-hmm.
from the source to the destination, right? So if that data is available, whether it is structured or unstructured, if it is workable, then I do it. I use tools like Tableau and Domo, and there's so much available,
Yeah.
right? These days there is, like, top of the shelf. But I work with engineering, and in the past, the way we have resolved issues is by honing in on those entities and creating a data lake. So you're like where I am at right now at Tradeshift, we have a data lake that takes care of the structured as well as unstructured data elements. And then we have like an infrastructure that feeds like the full data stack, right? So we have like an AWS, S3 bucket, then we have a Zeppelin on top of it, and we have our tech stack, and then we have other for business users, we have Domo, we have Tableau, things like. Uh, so the way I have to approach data is I have to first understand business and then understand engineering, right? But the output needs to be business friendly.
Yeah.
So no matter how much code I write, no matter how much, whatever metrics I have, and, growth rates, and all that sounds fancy, but for your business users, they really want to understand the story. If I throw projections at them, if I throw like a very nice forecast of the next 7 months, it won't make sense to them unless they understand the story. So I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of my time goes in after I've built a model. A lot of my time goes in storyboarding. A
Yeah.
lot of my time goes into working on the data after it is ready. You know what I mean? So it is whether it is structured or unstructured. Your engineering is always there to support you for whatever you need, right? Like, so once you make your requests, engineering infrastructure is ready for you. It is your job to identify the right approach to that output. So whether you want it as a report in Google Sheets, or whether you want it sitting in Domo so somebody can work at it, or whether you just want to create like a one slider and throw in an insight to the business users so that they can just run with it instead of them doing the data analysis, right? So what I generally do is I build business insights for my business users. I say that, okay, this is the story and these are the insights, so that they don't have to do that.
Sure.
They don't have to go into the weeds of the data.
That makes total sense. I mean, communicating data science concepts to business users are really, really hard. And here, at Intuizi, we spend a lot of time demystifying the data with the story that you're talking about by producing like just really simple to use dashboards. It distills it to the few things that they really need to understand and really need to know, and be able to kind of like manipulate it in a way where the specific questions get answered really, really easy. Sounds like you take a very similar approach to that visualization. Do you have a preferred BI tool that they use? I think you mentioned Domo. Is that kind of like
Tableau.
Tableau?
Yeah,
Tableau.
I prefer Tableau because Tableau is something that is like a data scientist's tool, I would say. It has a little bit of technology beneath it that you need a learning curve for, but it is extremely good to build insights and story.
Good. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, yeah. We use Amazon Quick Sites for our stuff, and it's a very, if you have data on S3, it just kind of like sucks it in all automatically, and just kind of like it's something that's really simple for them to be able to utilize. We do a lot of
Yeah, like I think we are working on Superset now. So Superset is also a tool that is very easy for business users, and it is something that just can sit on top of your tech stack. But we are learning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's a plethora of options. There's different flavors that do kind of different things. But yeah, that's great. So awesome. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been super informative. If a viewer wanted to get in touch with you to engage with you, what's the best way of doing so?
I'm on LinkedIn, so look me up, KJ Gupte, and my email is kj.gupte@gmail.com. If they can DM me, because I'm on LinkedIn. So
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, that is a wrap. Join us again next week for another informative session on the Data Deep Dive.
thank you so much, Ron.